Hi, everyone. We're coming to you live from Atlanta, Georgia at the 2024 Global Ethics Summit. I'm your host, Bill Coffin, and this is the Ethicast. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Ethicast here in Atlanta, Georgia, coming to you live and virtually at the 2024 Global Ethics Summit. I'm your host, Bill Coffin, and this is day 2 of the Global Ethics Summit. We've had a bunch of really fantastic sessions so far talking about data and data analytics and how they can really supercharge your compliance and ethics program. And to that end, I have with me a special guest. We have product manager for the Sphere, my colleague at Ethisphere, Tyler Lawrence. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Bill, and hello to everyone out there watching digitally, and thank you all for your engagement and interest in everything we're doing.
Indeed. Well, we have a bunch of data-driven questions that have come in over the course of the summit, and I wanted to throw them your way. So I guess the first big question is, we've had a couple really great dives into the 2024 World's Most Ethical Companies data thus far. Neil Thurston has had a couple sessions on it. I interviewed him yesterday about it as well. So I guess, are there any pieces that you would recommend for further data diving into that cohort of data? I know it's on the Sphere, and people are dying to learn more.
Sure. So, I mean, the ethics quotient obviously is extremely extensive. It's our questionnaire that forms the backbone of the World's Most Ethical Companies application, all of the other benchmarking work that we do. And there's over 250 questions at this point. So there's a lot of data in the Sphere. And it gets updated every year, right? We update it, on the basis of our own knowledge of evolving best practices, on the basis of what we're hearing from regulators and everything. In terms of the 2024 data, Neil, I'm sure if you've been watching along to this point, you've seen all of the highlights that he's brought out. But the one thing I would say is that this year we really expanded and revamped both the third-party section of the ethics quotient and the rest of the impacts section, so ESG, social impacts, all that sort of stuff. And so if you are, and those are obviously buzzy topics of perennial interest, and if you haven't had a chance yet to look at those, or maybe didn't understand that we've nearly doubled the number of questions in both of those sections, I would say definitely go give those a look.
Yeah. Now, I know that for a lot of chief compliance and ethics officers, they often cite regulatory risk as one of the things that really keeps them up at night, and one of the biggest challenges they face. So can you talk about any new or major regulatory updates that are reflected in the Sphere and that people can make use of when they jump on the platform?
Sure. So we are constantly adding new citations to do new, regulatory bodies, just kind of as a matter of expanding the amount of information that is in the platform and that every single data point is tied to. But in terms of recent regulatory pronouncements, we actually, if you log into the Sphere, at the very top of the category drop-down list of all the different places you go, there is one that's called Recent Regulatory Updates. And in there, at the moment, we are specifically highlighting data from a pair of speeches that Deputy Attorney General Monaco gave on a variety of developments from the Department of Justice. So we're highlighting they're continuing to expand the clawback program, right, whereby companies are being given credit for any compensation that they have clawed back from wrongdoers. And so we have some data there, questions around like, okay, do you have a policy of disclosing when an executive has had compensation clawed back, for example, or there's another data point that simply, has your organization yet clawed back compensation? And that data is interesting, especially simply because we only started asking that question last year. We added it to the EQ right before the DOJ actually started making public pronouncements about it, which was a bit of good luck. The first year we asked the question, only 20% of companies had any kind of policy around clawbacks. And now already, just 1 year later, because the DOJ has been talking about it so much, 42% of the world's most ethical companies have some kind of policy around that. And I'm sure that next year when we have this conversation again, there will be even more, probably a majority of organizations. Other things, we have data in there about the role that ethics and compliance teams are playing in due diligence pre-acquisition, again, related to the Department of Justice's new safe harbor policy, where they're really trying to incentivize companies to report any problems that they find in organizations they acquire. And then, so some other citations around investigations pertaining to the DOJ's new whistleblower program, obviously, right? That should serve for everybody as a good reminder to make sure that your own reporting channels and mechanisms are as good as they can be and as well advertised as they can be, so that your employees have the ability to raise something internally rather than going immediately to the regulators.
Indeed. Now, I know there are probably a lot of people who are attending live and have tuned in virtually, who might be hearing about the Sphere for the first time, or perhaps they've been curious and they haven't really made use of the tool just yet. So I know it can be a rather, it's an amazing tool. The data set is extraordinary. Can be a little intimidating for the uninitiated. So what would your first piece of advice be for people who want to really, understand and how to engage in this really, really powerful, really informative tool?
So the first thing that I would say is that anybody who is at a Bella member organization already has access to the Sphere. If you haven't been in, you may not know that, but you do. And so you can just reach out to your engagement director to, make sure that you're getting in if that hasn't happened yet. And then the place that I always recommend that folks start, because you're starting with this massive pool of 250 data points, is that if you haven't submitted an EQ yet, we can get you set up to take what we call the EQ Essentials, which is just over 100 questions. And the way I always describe it is, it's all the questions that are core to the day-to-day business of an ethics and compliance department. Your CICO or somebody on their direct team can sit down in the morning with a cup of coffee and answer those probably in about 90 minutes. Right, without having to, talk to somebody else. And as soon as we have that data, we can give you the strengths and opportunities report, right? And that is, highlighting not just at like the general topic level, but at the specific question level. Hey, here's an area where you are doing well, where you might have something you can brag to the board about. And here's an area where you should really be targeting this for improvement, where you may have some low-hanging fruit to help to mature your program. And one thing that I would also say as well is that for folks watching at home, if you are interested in learning more about kind of all of the ways that Ethisphere software can help you on your program acceleration journey, we actually have a session at, I believe, 3:30 that will be kind of digitally walking folks through all of the different tools we have available for that.
Can I ask you a follow-up question on that?
Sure.
So when I go into the Sphere, I find it very easy. I because of my personality, I get dazzled by the amount of data that's there, and I love to go down rabbit holes. And so I immediately will just, I'm there to search for a particular thing, and while I'm there, I think, maybe I'm going to learn about another 10 or 12 things while I'm here, and then before I know it, my afternoon is gone, and I'm just having a great time. But it's a very powerful tool. Do you have any recommendations or best practices, or even better yet, have you gotten feedback from users who've gone, here's how I have made the best use of the Sphere? Because it's an amazing platform that can be used in a variety of different ways. I'd be kind of curious what some insights are on, proven best practices for using it.
So, so the first thing is, I say, if you haven't submitted an ethics quotient, shoot us an email, support@ethisphere.com. Get in your own data, because then you can, much more easily compare yourselves and your own practices to other organizations. But then from there, what I really say is, this is, anybody who has access to the Sphere, it's an enterprise license. You have as many logins as you want. So there's no reason to be precious about who can get into the system. The companies who we see getting the most out of the system, they will have basically any subject matter expert in the organization has access to the Sphere, potentially anybody in kind of regional roles as well. And they can go in and access it on their own time when they have their own needs, right? And so if you are the person in charge of training for your organization, and you have a login, you're going to know the data points and the information and the analysis and the citations and all of the resources that we have in there to help you, day to day. And you may come in, there may be one day where you're saying, we really need to refresh, our anti-corruption policy, and you can go into the Sphere and look at the data that we have on that, or the examples that we have from other organizations. Or you may be doing like a really comprehensive look at the organization and say, we need a broad view for a board report, and that's something that the tool can give you as well. It's really, what I tell folks is spread the love, right? Spread the logins around, because I think, depending on your day-to-day, nearly anybody on your ethics and compliance team could benefit from, if not the data or the analysis, then definitely the resources, the templates, the examples, the company contributed examples, just as you move through your program improvement and maturity journey.
Indeed. Well, for anybody who's interested in World's Most Ethical Companies 2024 data, and honestly, who isn't, please make sure to stop by, make use of the Sphere. The information there is absolutely fantastic, and it's going to be very motivational for your program. So be sure to get involved. And if you're not a Sphere user already, make sure to reach out to Tyler here. He can set you up and get you started on your Sphere journey. So with that in mind, Tyler, thank you very much for joining the program. It's great to hear from you.
Thank you very much for having me, Bill, and thank you all.
I'm Bill Coffin. This is the Ethicast. Tune in again tomorrow. We'll be coming to you live from the 2024 Global Ethics Summit. And until then, remember, strong ethics is good business.